Connecticut Democratic Governor under Connecticut, Governor Dannel Malloy. Dannel, great to have you back on the show, and I hear you are the first in 50 states to do what the president wanted to do, which is raise the minimum wage. You got it done.
And he takes off.
Well, we're the first state in 50 states to do what the people want us to do, and that's to raise the minimum wage to $10.10. This is going to take a whole bunch of people who are working 40 hours a week and living in poverty out of poverty. That's the goal in Connecticut, to get people working at a job that allows them to support their families. The vast majority of people, women who are earning the minimum wage, are raising families on the minimum wage. We've got to help those families, and this is a way to do it. 3 steps to get there by January 1st, 2017.
I'm sure he works something out with all.
That's amazing.
All right.
I love it.
Chris Matthews.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting election. Let me tell you about your re-election campaign, Governor. This is going to be a tough one for you, and I wonder what you think are going to be the issues coming in November that's going to make this election a win for you.
Well, you know, we've created 52,000 private sector jobs since I became governor. We've gone from a $3.6 billion deficit to a $500 million surplus. We've gone from no money in the rainy day fund to $550 million in the rainy day fund. We've gone from having governors who are doing things like what's happening in New Jersey right now, where they're not funding the pension plan properly. We're funding our pension plan. We're going from worst in the nation funded pension plan and making substantial progress. All of that in the last 3.5 years. All I've got to do is get that story out and have people understand it.
Are the Republicans going to make an issue of gun control? Or are they going to be with you on that up there in Connecticut?
I think they'll probably 2 out of the 3 leaning candidates are against what we did in Connecticut, universal background checks, limiting the sale of assault weapons and that sort of thing. I suspect they'll come after me. The NRA has had me on the front page of their magazine. I know they're coming after me. I suspect a whole bunch of folks are going to try to have that discussion in the not too distant future.
Margaret Carlson.
Governor, good morning. Republicans in Washington. Hi, I'm good. Nice to see you, even electronically. Republicans in Washington think the world is going to end if you raise the minimum wage. How did you bring Republicans along in Connecticut? Enough to win the vote?
We didn't have them. I didn't have a single Republican vote in the House. I didn't have a single Republican vote in the Senate. This is a thing.
That's the answer.
That is the answer, and I think that's going to cause a lot of folks to reflect on this. 78% of women in the state of Connecticut supported raising the minimum wage because they understand more than perhaps men do the reliance on minimum pay jobs to support their families or their friends' family. So this is a great divide in our country. I've been watching the debate down in Washington. I've even watched the debate on some morning shows from time to time. A whole bunch of folks are backing up and saying, well, maybe we don't want to spend so much time talking about the minimum wage. You know why? Because the American people get it. If it came up to a vote in the Congress, it would probably pick up 20 Republican votes in the Congress if they'd allow it to happen. The American people understand that nobody should work 40 hours a week and live in poverty.
New York Times, Jeremy Peters.
Governor, you mentioned that you had no Republican support for raising the minimum wage, but it's my understanding that you also had considerable amount of difficulty getting Democrats on board. They were a point of resistance. That's also the case in Maryland, as Maryland tries to... I'm sorry.
No, that's not the case.
You had a Democrat vote against it. You had Democrats vote against it in both the House and the Senate. So I just wonder, like, what is the resistance there? Because this is something that we're also seeing in Maryland as Maryland fights to raise its minimum wage. Not all Democrats are on board with this. So what's going on there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're allowed to disagree in the Democratic Party. We had 1 senator not vote for it and 4 members of the House not vote for it. So I don't want to debate with you whether that's a lot of opposition, but I'm going to make a statement. It's not. The reality is that Democrats embrace this issue because they understand the importance to working men and women, and that no one should ever work 40 hours a week.
We've got Connecticut's own Sam Stein here with us. I know you like to call him favorite son, Sam Stein.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, do you have a question for your governor?
I do, Governor. You listed all the reasons you should be reelected to Chris. Absent from the list is Obamacare, and your state's been a leading example of enrolling the uninsured. Why did you not put that on your list? And a second related question, have you talked to any other governors about how to improve their own systems, considering how well you've done with yours?
Yes, we've actually been contacted by a number of states about using our technology and how we did it. So there are a number of states that are now looking at Connecticut. The failure rate, as you know, is pretty high. We, on the other hand, have done extremely well. We're about 185,000 people covered. Our goal was to get to 100,000. We did that by February. We think that we have a lot more people to sign up in the coming days. The phone lines are working. We've got the system up and running on the computer program. It just all came together for us because we put a lot of work into it. From the day I got elected, I embraced this issue and I ran
to it. Why isn't it a tenet of your re-election campaign? Why didn't you list that among the issues that you think you could run on?
It's a little early, and I haven't had enough coffee, so I apologize.
All right, very good.
Dannel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. Very good to see you here. Greatly appreciate it.